now then, campers, how are you? How's your Monday been? Out of 10, how's the start of your week got going? Well, I hope. Let me know. Give me your scores on the doors in the comment section below. How has your week started out of 10, my friends? It's Andy here, of course, as usual, every night, live, answering your questions as best as I possibly can, giving you one man's opinion and telling you a few stories along the way that might help you with your journey in real estate. Friends, it has been a ripper start to the week for me. Why? Because I got to see the smiles on my kids' faces as they went to the playground for the first time in God knows how long. Well, yes, that is true. We didn't go too far. We stayed within our 5K, but we actually managed to go out and enjoy some sunshine and get the kids up and down the playground. And Lizzie managed, got a trip up and down the monkey bars and on the Flying Fox and all that sort of stuff. It was so good just to see them running around and having fun, man. It really, really was. I really hope that after all this, and I've said this to one or two people, that we don't get short-term memory loss and we forget how much we value these really small things, like going to the playground with your kids and staying off your phone for that time so that they can feel engaged with you and all that sort of stuff, right? I really hope that this stays in our minds for a long, long time, because let's face it, and this is just me talking as my only opinion, our younger generations of what I've been more concerned about, more than my own financials, to be perfectly frank. I'm way more concerned about my kids breaking than I am about going broke myself. And I think that if we're not careful, the impacts are going to be felt in our younger generations for so long. So if we can try to accelerate that return to form by just staying that little bit more engaged, especially when we've got opportunities like to go to the playground and all that sort of stuff, we've got to take them. Eliza's been setting appointments in my diary, and I'm blessed. Look, Jazz Singh Eview, I had to cut him off the other day because I had a 4 o'clock appointment to go play with my daughter, and I had a 1 o'clock appointment to go to the playground today. So I've been cutting people off to go and have fun with my kid. But gang, let's please remind ourselves of some of the silver linings consistently if we can. All right, because like I said today, it was just the best. It was just wicked. I really, really enjoyed seeing the kids having a run around and having a laugh and whatnot. Andrew, welcome to the frame, my friend. He's a 9. He's had a solid start to the week, which is good. That's more than a solid start. That's a cracking start to the week. Myself, I'm probably stationed. I was probably around about a 7 at the start of the day. I full split my head open on a cupboard, on the corner of a cupboard, which was rather painful and bled a bit. So that was a bit interesting. So my day didn't start off tremendously well, but it accelerated up from there. I had a really cool conversation with one of my coaching clients who's an absolute ripper of a lad, and he's going to go so far it's not even funny. And then, and then took the kids to the playground and had a bit of a laugh, which was great. So a real solid start to the week for me. Gang, I've got one question that I've been asked consistently for a long time. Almost daily, pretty much daily, which I'm going to give you my 2 cents on now. And it's around social media. Now, I'm not God's gift to social media. I don't profess to be. I do have a small marketing business which offers advice and so on and so forth. But I know Steve Carroll. I know Immy Callister. Those two in particular are absolute stars in the craft of media, generally speaking, digital media and so on and so forth. But I know a thing or two about a thing or two. So I'll give you my 2 cents on that. Also, I wanted to thank everybody that did send through some of their very specific stories and situations pertaining to either themselves or their clients that, as a result of stage 4, ended up either in limbo or really struggling. So thank you so much to those of you that did make an effort to send some stuff through. That's been sent straight on. That's been forwarded straight on to people that are having conversations with the powers that be. So hopefully that will add a little bit of clout to the situation that's evolving daily, hourly, almost by the sounds of it. So, all right. Keep telling me how you're going out of 10. Tell us how your Monday's been. I'd love to see a lot more action in terms of tell me some success stories, please. Give us your success, post them in the comment section below. Let's share the success. Let's share the love. Let's get some positivity going around. And this ain't bullshit positivity that I'm after. I'm after actual, real, good stuff that you've used, that you've progressed your lives or your real estate careers with. Show us, let us know in the comment section below, so that others that may be a bit down and out on a 2 or a 3 out of 10 or something can see that things can happen if they really want them to. They can see a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel there. So this one, oh no, not that one. Hold on, my apologies. A little bit of a user error there. So question was, which social media platforms are the right ones to go on right now? Are the right ones? It's a right, because let's have a look at the various different platforms that we have got. Right, we've got obviously Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. TikTok is whether that's a flash in the pan, whether you believe in the whole thing about it being China owned, it's going to get dumped. You've got Instagram that are bringing out their own version of TikTok, which is feeds. So whether that's going to be the next thing to take over the Western world in that space. And then obviously you've got the Snapchats and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, from my point of view, we need to break this down. We need to break this down into 2 sections. We need to think about it from a personal branding point of view, and then we need to think about it from a real estate, as in selling houses, point of view. Okay, and then think about which platforms are going to be better for which for which use. Okay, just having a quick look down at some of these success stories. We've got virtual inspections winning 3 more book for vendors this week. Amazing. From Joe there. Christina Cancers, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us, Christina. Success, new team member ran his first podcast training session today and smashed it. That is a massive win there for Christina. By the way, gang, while I've got her up on the screen, she's becoming a good friend of mine. Her and a beloved ball and chain, Aaron, they're becoming good friends. And if you do want to know anything about the podcast world, you need to speak to this young lady right here. I mean, she is about to begin her path of parenthood, so you might catch her when she's about to pop or whatever, but she's just hired a brilliant guy who knows his way around the thing. Obviously Aaron's still going to be on the tools, and guys, Christina, if you don't follow her, C Method, definitely follow her. Her podcast is great, well worth. It's called stand out, get noticed. I think it's called. Oh shit, I hope I've got that right. But it is an amazing podcast. I really would listen to her if I were you. Who else have we got? Kirk, 9 for me. Happy to talk to anyone who's not faring well. Of course you are, my man. No problem. Cameron J picked up 2 industrial sale listings from a price inquiry phone call on Saturday morning. Get up, son. I like it. I like the cut of your jib, sir. Very much so. That's very, very cool. I like it. Let's share these stories, gang. Let's share them. We need to get around each other, because there are some people that are coming to the ends of their tether. Okay. And I understand why. I totally get why. So if we can share some good stories that are just being done to make sure that people can see that it can still be done, not just shoving it in their faces, but saying that, look, you can do it. If you want, if you get up off the canvas, you can do it. All right. Rob, he's here, 8.5, mate. That is a marked difference from what we had a few days ago. I wonder if it's anything to do with young Darren that you've got running around your house at the minute. I'm hoping to God you've called your new dog Darren. That would just make my year by a distance. It would make my year. So, gang, questions. A question: which social platforms are the right ones? And while I'm answering this, gang, and just giving you my 2 cents on this, if you do want to post any questions, while I'm talking, this is why I've done this show, because I like being put on the spot. I like spontaneity. So ask me any questions that you've got relating to business, real estate. It can be anything. You can ask me some stupid trivia questions. This man right here, 3 weeks on the bounce, family trivia champion. So, test us out. Let's see how we go. All right, gang. So social media. When it comes to your personal branding and whatnot, I've got my own thoughts on this. And realistically, the first thing that you need to be asking yourself before you start going and committing to platforms is, what type of media am I better at? All right. Now what I mean by that is, are you great with the written word? Are you amazing with photography? So you're good at taking really good pictures and getting all the nice sort of effects on there and all the filters and all that sort of jazz and making it look all like proper Mickey Mouse. Are you verbal? So do you communicate best by doing this sort of stuff? And your personality type. Are you introvert? Are you extrovert? Do you like getting yourself out there? Or are you really struggling with the whole social media thing, partly because of the fact that you just don't like getting you don't like getting yourself out and about, right? So it's a really, really big and interesting point that we need to think about before we start just banging on about social media platforms and saying this one's the best one, that one you've got to do, because each one is like a different room. It's like a different stage completely. And depending on what you are good at, depending on what you enjoy doing, will go a long way to determining which platforms you spend a lot more time on, in my humble opinion. So for me, and the other big thing that you've got to bear in mind is, where are your customers? And that's going to change depending on which area you are working in, whether you are working closer to the CBD of whichever state you're in, whether it's Brisbane, Vegas, or Sydney, or Melbourne, or wherever. If you are working in towards the middle of the city, it will differ from the ones that are a little bit further out, sort of outer metro and regional. They will play very, very different games from a social media point of view, my friends. So we need to make sure that we pay attention to our customers and what platforms they're using, and then pay attention to ourselves and what mediums we prefer to be on. So the introverts amongst us might be a hell of a lot better articulating through the written word. So we've got to think about where those articles are going to be more likely to be getting read. Okay. It sounds simple, but in practice, and when people do start sort of sprouting their knowledge, in the main about what social media platforms are best for business and stuff, they don't really take that into account, right? Or they don't bring it to the attention from all the ones that I've gone to so many of these things, because you can never stop learning with an ever-changing landscape, right? So for me, I mean, I was looking at I went to a webinar on Friday actually with the focus group, Talitha and Belinda and the gang there. So I'm always trying to learn more. My personal opinion is that for people like myself, so I clearly don't mind saying a word or two, clearly. So for me, lives are probably the best thing for my personality type. Okay. So if you've not read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, you need to. At the back of the book, towards the back end of the book, he talks about how if you can work out what your flow state is and the conditions that put you into a state of flow, so where you're really sort of rocking and rolling, then you need to look at those conditions and try and replicate them in as many different ways as possible. So it gives you a better chance of actually being in flow a lot more. Now, for me, it's gavel in hand, rocking and rolling an auction by a long, long way. It's where I'm at my most calm. And if you think about the conditions there, it's spontaneity, it's pressure, it's being put on the spot, which is exactly why I do lives, because I know for a fact that if I let my brain get in the way, it generally tends to become a bit of a pain in the ass, to be perfectly frank. So none of this is scripted. None of this is staged in any way, shape, or form. I'm just going off the top and just giving you my thoughts, my opinions, my knowledge, and my awareness around anything that happens, right? Which is why I do lives. If you are really struggling with video, because I will say that videos are becoming way more necessary now from they have been for a while, right? But from an algorithm point, it's kind of like a need to have. You kind of have to do them. But there's ways of getting around that, right? So if you're really struggling in front of camera when it comes to your video work, then you can always look at sort of infomercially type videos where you can do written overlays over the top of some generic footage. For example, you can get a videographer to do a series of generic video shoots from around your local area, and then put written overlays over the top of it with like an iMovie or something like a free app. There are loads of free apps kicking around, okay? And that will still class as video content. It really will. Now, the one thing that I will say from a personal brand point of view is that it is exactly that. It is tremendously personal. So you're going to probably want to get yourself out there, especially in real estate, because a brand is only as strong as the individual or people behind it. You can have the best brand in the world, but at the end of the day, if you're an arsehole and you're not known as an individual, it will make no difference whatsoever, okay? It will give you no extra traction. Okay, so you've got to make sure, you've got to try and become comfortable as you possibly can in getting yourself out there as best as possible. But that's where you need to play to your strengths, not your weaknesses. So, for example, if you are much better in terms of getting a shot or getting some pictures, or whether it's selfie pictures with yourself, I know that there's one or two, there's a few people that I've connected with more recently that they don't like videos, but they're really quite comfortable getting in front of the camera and taking pictures and selfies and all that sort of stuff. That's a perfectly legit way of getting your personality out there, as long as it's not too staged. I had a comment come through from Chris Melbourne about, and this was on the pre sort of announcement that I was going to that I was going to be on tonight, obviously, and I'm just going to read it out to him, read it out to you guys. He says, "I think it's not so much the platform you're on in most cases, but the authenticity of the message that you're pushing. E.g., I love following real people and relatable messages that drive to help and serve, not the slick suit wearing, fast car driving people who pose in every shot with a copy and paste quote." Right. And the thing is, gang, because of the volume of knowledge and information that everybody has now, there are so many more times where agents, you're getting called, bullshit's getting called on you, man, when you stood by or near a Lambo that clearly isn't yours, for example. All right. You've got to be very, very careful how showy you are nowadays, because apart from anything else, people are struggling, right? They don't want to then have like ridiculous vomit-worthy success shoved in their face, for example, whichever market you're working in. So you've got to make sure that if you are good with the photography, if you're good with that, be relatable, be human. Show, if you're comfortable showing your kids, show one of your kids in the background, or take a picture of something that they drew, or something along those lines. Things that can make you out to be a lot more human. Okay, because things like, for example, Facebook, especially since Zuckerberg got dragged across the Congress coals, it's become a lot more hard to be heard as a business on Facebook. If you have a look at your business pages, you will find that your reach, your natural reach within the people that follow your page, has dropped. It will drop, and it will continue to drop, because that's what Zuckerberg wants, because of a couple of things. One, it makes you spend more money with him, so he's going to do it, and that's one of the reasons why he keeps making it harder for you to navigate your way around the back end of ads manager or business manager or whatever. It keeps getting more and more intricate because he wants it to be more difficult. Now, so if you're going to do Facebook, be as organic as you possibly can. Now, there is a fine line between making sure that you are authentic and making sure that you are professional to a degree. Okay, so if you take my thing, for example, I got an overlay made by one of my graphic designers so that you had the little borders and all that sort of stuff, and I've got a professional account on StreamYard, which is the platform that I use for this, which lets me do all these little things and the ticker thing on the bottom and all that sort of stuff. Okay, so you've got to put you have got to put some effort in to make sure that you're not just a complete joke. But don't be afraid to be yourself, especially now if you're in Metro Melbourne, because you ain't got much of a choice, right? You ain't got much of a choice. Now, for me, and again, this is just my humble opinion, based on however many hours of homework and other opinions that I take into account and what have you. For me, LinkedIn is probably the next thing that you really got to have a focus on. You really have to. Mainly because that's probably the biggest platform from an organic reach point of view outside of TikTok. Okay. Outside of TikTok, LinkedIn is unlocking so many doors for so many people right now, and for a lot of the time, real estate professionals are so far behind in that sort of game in terms of getting on top of the organic reach before it starts becoming expensive. Okay, it's like as soon as we get used to one thing, it's like a Titanic. It takes forever to turn to the next space that is important, viable, and on fire, shall we say. So for me, LinkedIn is probably the next thing that we all need to be spending a lot more attention on. Aside from anything else, PMs, so property managers and BDMs, and people that deal with investors a hell of a lot, you have to be on LinkedIn. Okay, because with investments, obviously, it's more of a businessy type decision. LinkedIn being a more businessy type sort of platform, whoever you are giving investment advice to, or if you're a BDM, you're trying to get investors onto your portfolio, or PMs or rental department managers, you are dealing with people that have got a bit more financial nous about them. Ergo, you're probably going to want to play in the spaces that they're playing in. Now, the closer in towards the city you live and reside and transact and interact from a business point of view, again, the more attention you're going to want to spend on LinkedIn. It's really, really common knowledge that, well, it might not be really common knowledge, but it's a common fact that the further into town you go, the more LinkedIn is used. Because the more businessy, the more white collar it becomes, right? So, and that's just the way it is. So you've got to make sure that you utilize LinkedIn, especially if you're dealing with investors. If you're so buyer advocates do very, very well, vendor advocates do well, investment strategy types, they tend to do very, very well on it. But real estate frontline agents, and especially in the PM space and BDM space, you've got to get your mugshots onto LinkedIn and learn how to use it properly. Okay, you really, really do. As well as that, what we also need to be aware of is that generally people tend to digest information a bit more on LinkedIn as well. So the written word tends to have a bit more of a say on LinkedIn. So if you've got more of a vibe of tapping the buttons as opposed to saying stuff, LinkedIn could be a much more natural platform for you as well. All right, because people tend to, if the first couple of lines are looking great, are looking like halfway decent, they will take the time to digest the rest of the content. Whereas on Facebook and especially on Instagram, they, which is on more pictures and whatnot, it's very flicky. Okay, so make sure that if you are a written word type of individual, play on LinkedIn. They've got a really cool little blog feature that LinkedIn likes you using, so they'll give you a little bit of a nudge if you use it a little bit more often. And let's not forget our home ground, gang. I'm talking about social media platforms, but please let us not forget our own websites, because ultimately Google's going to be watching that carry on. Okay. And if you can do just a little tiny bit of back, you don't need to be God's gift at SEO or anything, but if you put blog articles onto your website and you have access, so you're an independent, for example, you have access to the back end of your website so that you can plug in like a Yoast or something which helps you from an SEO tool point of view. It takes a certain type of like terminology, language, whatever you want to call it, to be SEO friendly when it comes to the written word, but it's not hard to work it out. It really isn't. I mean, I'm not exactly God's gift to anything, but I worked it out pretty quickly. And I use Yoast, which is a really good plugin for WordPress websites and things like that. And it just literally tells you what you need to do in order to make your stuff better from an SEO side of things. And it highlights it for you. There are so many tools that will help you along the way with that sort of stuff. So don't forget, blog articles on your own website is going to be important because Google notices that crap. Okay. You've got to get it on there, especially if you're into the written word. Videos, and now I keep getting asked, is YouTube worth going on? I personally feel that it is because of its attachment to Google, i.e. Google owns YouTube. And if your website directs someone to have a watch of a YouTube video, again, Google likes it. Okay. So my friends, you got to make sure that you do pay attention to YouTube as well. And it really doesn't take a hell of a lot more effort. Now, one mistake that I'm still seeing a hell of a lot of people make is you are attaching a link to a YouTube video onto LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever. That's a cardinal sin. You need to be putting the videos directly, loading them directly onto the platform that you want them to be seen on, because they don't like you bouncing them away from their platforms. So please make sure that you put your posts, your videos and content directly to the platform. Okay. But for me, from a personal brand, like Facebook is where, you know, the vast majority of real estate agents are pretty much wholly solely focused on Facebook, which is why I'm on it. Okay, you need to have a think about your demographics. Are they white collar, blue collar? If they're blue collar, you need to play a lot more in the Facebook space than you do anywhere else. If they are white collar, you need to have a good mix of LinkedIn and Facebook, in my personal opinion. Okay, written word is perfectly legit with regards to LinkedIn, in my humble opinion. Now, Instagram for me is great for little short clips. And the stories function for me is probably where I would be spending a bit of time on the stories bit, you know, the bit across the top with the circles and that, with your profile picture on. I would be spending a lot more time on that. But for me, Instagram is very much a product-based platform. So if you are selling something like I don't know, face cream or fashion or things like that, where it's a very basic transaction, pay money, get a product, that for me is that they are the business models that tend to do a lot better in Instagram land, as opposed to, and obviously the ones that are visually very, very appealing. Okay, so gang, Instagram for mine is one of those ones that's okay, but I would be spending a lot more of my time on LinkedIn and Facebook if it was me. I would have a like an office account on Instagram and have your photos of your properties and things like that on there. And if you are going to use it for clients and so on and so forth, just make sure you're tagging them. Get their permission to tag them into the picture that you post on there of them next to the sold sticker or whatnot. That's a real huge missed opportunity for a hell of a lot of real estate agents. They put these sold stickers up, or people stood next to sold signs and whatnot, and they don't ask the clients if it's okay if you tag them in the picture. Some will say no, and that's fine, but a load of them say, look, I'd love to tag you in the picture so you can share it around with your friends. So many say yes, and hardly any real estate agents do it. Tagging your clients in your pictures is really, really critical, if you ask me. Okay, so please start tagging some of your clients and ask them first, though. Don't just start tagging away. Please just ask them. So yeah, so that's my 2 cents. Now, with regards to property marketing, I've said this to a few people, happy to go on record with it. I personally believe that I think you can run a completely social media based real estate agency and not need realestate.com. I personally believe that. I genuinely believe that if you have a degree of nous and you obviously are going to need someone that is dedicated to the social media space in your team, but as long as you do, I personally believe that you can sell just as many properties, if not more, because you're going to be able to do it on a lesser budget, which means that you can pump more money into getting attention from your clients and so on and so forth. It's very cyclical in that respect. Do I have massive hate for realestate.com? Not really. At the end of the day, we gave them the power. They didn't take it away from us. So ultimately, you know, they're just doing what they want to do. It's their job. It's like their job. So I'm not even going to knock them for it. But I do firmly believe that we can have power if we want it. It is there if we want to have it. Okay? My humble opinion. I do believe that you should be 100% be putting your listings up, spending a little bit of money on it, and not just hitting that blue boost button and putting a 5K radius on it. Good for you. That's pretty much what every 14-year-old's doing right now. You're going to have to go a level deeper now to be effective because of how much more difficult it is on Facebook to get your stuff out there. Okay. So you're going to need to dig a little bit deeper. All this stuff, all it needs is a little bit of effort. don't necessarily need money. You can find out a lot of this stuff on this platform, right, called Google. It's a really interesting platform. It's got a few answers to a few questions, I believe. So you can find a lot of the information out on that. If you're looking for, so I'm just going through, let's just have a quick look at some of these comments on here. How did our new team Newcastle go on the weekend? Mate, I will tell you in a second, and it is good news. Finding video is kicking in. The Facebook videos I've posted in the last month have averaged about 1,400 views each. Video kicked in a long time ago. It's just that lots more people have a lot more time in their hands to consume it. So, you know, you really need to get onto videos. Hustlegram, yes, Gary V. And a Gucci belt, like it. Can you not push LinkedIn? I just thought, oh, mate, I'm sorry, Andrew. But I've got asked the question. Where Cameron, I'm on LinkedIn now. Commercial agents, you guys have got no excuse. It's a cardinal sin if you're not on LinkedIn. Cam, don't know how to use it. How, where, and with whom do I learn? This is bollocks to it. I'll plug it. I actually posted. If you look in my personal Facebook feed, Cam, you will actually see that I posted a class run by Emily Wallace, who's a buyer's advocate, but has grown pretty much exponentially through LinkedIn and has got a couple of really, really good ideas that you can implement very, very quickly. Head up my social media feed and you will find her class that I have literally posted the link to. Go and click on that and sign yourself in because it's going to be worthwhile. I think there's about 6 spots left or something. Very much worthwhile getting onto Emily Wallace's training with regards to LinkedIn. It will help you. Chris Gilmore and Lisa Novak sold majority through social media. They do, but I think it can be done better. You know, it's just my humble opinion, man. Like at the end of the day, I'm not bagging them. They do what they do, and I really do believe Lisa is winning. It's safe to say she's doing well. I reckon it can be done better. Okay, I do think it can be done better. I think it can be done wholly and solely, like purely. Like literally just don't even get a realestate.com membership agreement and you run solely off social media. I really think that could really help you explode because it's going to be different. It's going to be different. You're going to have complete control. You'll be able to swivel your marketing. So say, for example, it's not working mid-campaign. You can chop and change all the back end stuff to make it go in a different direction. You can do split testing, which is when you send the same product or whatever out in different ways, in different formats across the different demographics. You can have so much fun with that sort of stuff. And I know I'm sounding like a massive geek, but I quite enjoy this stuff. Okay. I quite enjoy it. So yeah, if anyone wants to chat to me about that further, more than happy to have a yarn. So that's my 2 cents on it. Facebook, it's still the biggest player, although it's become a lot more difficult and you have to dig a little bit deeper than just pressing that blue button in the bottom right-hand corner of your post and sticking a little geography boundary on it. You have to get better than that now. LinkedIn has got a massive amount of organic traffic still. It's dwindling a little bit in terms of its usage because a lot of people are in social mode in Melbourne as opposed to professional mode. But, you know, Melbourne ain't the be-all and end-all, right? So get out there because when it does kick back off, LinkedIn will kick back up again. It will, especially from a geographical point of view. And Instagram is a nice to have, but I'm really predominantly talking about the stories as opposed to the actual posts themselves. And try not to do too many quotes. Try not to, okay? And try and be a little bit more human. You don't have to have a picture of you in a suit looking away from the camera like you don't realize it's getting taken. You know what I mean? Come on, gang. We're better than that now, surely. Surely. The public can smell bullshit a mile away now because of the volume of information that they have at their fingertips. It's the same with prospecting. The vast majority of the time, there is very little point in you trying to snake your way into a listing on a cold call. So because they can call bullshit on it massively. So people are so much more aware now. So you got to play to the times. Play to the times. That's the main thing I want to say. And that's what Chris Melbourne sort of alluded to on his post. What else have we got? Have we got anything else on the... what else have we got here on... Yes, Mel Hickson. Yes, good to see. Yeah, that is how we met. And that's the other cool thing. LinkedIn is amazing from a networking point of view with contemporaries, with people that are in different industries. You can learn so much more from LinkedIn into that you can take from other industries and then bring it into your own business of real estate. Really, really good for that. Really good for that. So definitely get onto that, please. Gang. Now, I hope that helped. I hope that helped shed a bit of light on things. But realistically, yeah, LinkedIn's the one that you really need to get a grip of if you haven't. Facebook, you're going to have to dig a little bit deeper. Simple as that. So what else? What other questions have we got? Cameron, Newcastle, 2-0 winners at West Ham. Thanks for coming. Two debutantes who scored the goals as well. Jeff Hendrick, Callum Wilson. Oh, probably the better. Like, we haven't won an opening day fixture in 8 or 9 years. So it was just so nice to wake up to a 2-0 win. Loved it. My old man was probably watching from upstairs, and he would have loved it as well himself. Gang, what have we got? Any other questions at all, gang? Otherwise, I will leave you to the rest of your evening, or if you're around the world, the start of your day. I hope you have a really, really good one. Gang, thank you so much for giving us your comments and your queries and all this sort of stuff. I really appreciate you getting behind it and hopefully getting a small degree of value from it. I really do appreciate it, my friends. I'll be here tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time. I will be here. Hopefully you will be too. If you've got any questions, please fire them through on a DM or just get in touch with me. You can text me 0451 085 998. Or like I said, put a comment into one of the videos that you're watching now, or send me a DM if you want to remain anonymous. You're more than welcome to be doing that. My friends, I love you all. Thank you so much for joining in. I really appreciate it. Until tomorrow night, you guys stay safe, stay healthy. Most importantly, though, my friends, stay happy. Take it easy.